But a bit more Malia, please, with the house. Just a bit more of the keys. Let's do that jam again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, downtown Bothell. Good morning. Let's come close. I think we are our best when we're family. So let's be family together this morning. Find a seat, find someone you don't know. Sit with them. Make a friend. Go, 1, 2.
Sing for the weak, sing for the oppressed.
sensation of the moment is the picture called 40 Seconds.
The winner is Marlon Brando on the board. It's fantastic. He hasn't much talent or reputation.
That's what's wrong. He should be kissed and off and let someone knows how.
Hey, here's the deal, real quick, before we get started. My name's Josiah, I'm the campus pastor here. Some of you I know, some not so much. We have popcorn for you in the back, and I'm going to submit to you that if you want to stand up and grab some popcorn, it will not distract you. Alright, as a youth pastor for 10 years, you'd have to do a lot more than grab popcorn in the back to distract me when I'm preaching. Well, this is a fun series. We are doing as part of Gold Creek, we do the same series all across the campuses, and this one is Watching Oscar. And we've selected 4 movies from the list that are up for Best Picture of the Year, and we're going to talk about it. So this morning we're talking about a movie called Phantom Thread, and I'm going to be real honest. I'm about to destroy this movie for you.
Uh-oh.
Alright, so if you haven't seen it and were planning on it, still go see it. I didn't like it at first. I do now, which is interesting, because I've only seen it one time, and at first I was like, okay, this is depressing, and it's slow. But now I think about it, I'm like, no, I love that movie. So, still see it, but if you haven't, I'm about to spoil the whole thing for you. There's going to be no drama in it. It's going to be a little mundane, and you're going to be alright with that. Next week, we're discussing a movie called Lady Bird. So if you wanna go ahead and watch that, I don't know if it's on video. Yeah, it might be in the theater. If you want to do that this week, watch it, enjoy it. 2 weeks from now, we're doing the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. I do not suggest this movie. It is foul language throughout the whole thing. We're hard pressed to show a clip that doesn't have foul language. It's called Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Yes, that is one title. It's a sentence. It's all about 3 billboards outside of a city called Ebbing, Missouri. Kind of self-explanatory. And then last week we're digging into Darkest Hour, which is the second worst movie ever made. No, I fell asleep 5 minutes into it, and I haven't tried to watch it again. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to enjoy this. We're going to make light of it. But we're also, the reason we do this as a church is so that we can see what culture is watching and we can respond to it. So that we know, hey, these are the things that matter in culture right now. See, movies are so, they're so symbolic about everything going on, right? And it's subtle. We don't see it sometimes, that they're sending messages, they're communicating something through every scene. They pour over it and they're like, what's the best camera angle? Well, this is what we're trying to do. Okay, the lighting needs to be like this. And just create a triangle on the cheek that's called some technical form of lighting. I saw it when you watching a movie on it. So that's how I even know that there's a triangle on the cheek. There's a lot of thought that goes into it, and we want to respond. As a church, we want to be watching, and we want to be aware, and we want to respond to it. So, let me set up this movie real quick so that we can fully enjoy the first couple clips that will make you hate the characters. The movie Phantom Thread is about a dressmaker, Reynold something. What was his last name?
Woodcock.
Woodcock. Reynold Woodcock. Played by Daniel Day-Lewis. He's a dressmaker, and he is very meticulous. In fact, one of the first scenes, he's sitting down at breakfast with his sister and his living girlfriend, and she's trying to talk to him, and he gets so annoyed and so frustrated that he has his sister send her away, break up with him. Right? That's the kind of dude we're talking about. But he, as a dressmaker, sews in these hidden messages into his dresses that he sends out. And at first you're like, oh, that's cool. You know, blessing them. Like you see at one point, he sews a message in and it says, never curse. But really, ultimately, he's just trying to control the situation. And then he gets a new assistant, who then becomes his girlfriend, later becomes his wife. And so we get a strong glimpse of relationships here. And so this first clip we're going to show is before they start a romantic relationship. It's right at the start of her being his assistant. And then the second part of this clip is a different scene where they're actually dating at this point, and you'll see how dysfunctional it is. Check this out.
What's he doing?
It's Tiffany.
Don't put the tray on the table, please. Just take it off. I shouldn't ask for tea.
No, but
You take it out, please.
yes, I can take it out.
It's a bit late now, isn't it?
I'm taking it out.
Yeah, but it's a bit late now, isn't it?
But I'm taking it out.
The tea is going out. The interruption is staying right here with me.
I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just waiting around like an idiot for you.
This was an ambush, Alma. To what purpose?
This is not... I know it's not going as I expected. I didn't mean these things to come out. I'm sorry, but it was meant to be nice.
Well, what did you expect?
I wanted time with you. I wanted to have you to myself.
You have me all the time.
No.
What are you talking about?
I don't. There are always people about. And if not, then there's something between us.
Something between us?
Yes.
What?
Some
What?
distance.
When did this happen? What happened to make you behave like this? Is it because you think I don't need you?
Yes.
I don't.
But that's very particular of you.
Alright, so obviously there's some real level of dysfunction in this relationship. And at first, as I was watching this movie, I thought it was just all about relationships. I thought it was about their, boss assistant and then boyfriend, girlfriend, marriage, relationship, but it's not. It's a power struggle. This whole movie is about power. Who is in charge? It's about control and authority before it's about anything else. In fact, you see throughout the whole movie that his relationship with his sister, he thinks he's in control, but she's running his business. And at one point, they're arguing about something, and she's like, "Don't you argue with me, I will cut right through you." And you're like, "Oh no, tiny lady is going to take him out." But here's the deal. I was listening to a sermon, actually with Ben. We were cruising down to Snohomish this week, and we were listening to a sermon, and the title of the sermon is "Evil Knows It's All About Power." Throughout this movie, Phantom Thread is really a symbol of control in relationships. He controls the dresses, he sends them out, and he says at one point, he's like, "I'm the only one who knows what these messages are, where they are, and what they say." He's like, "I'm controlling this still." And then he's at a wedding where one of his dresses is being worn, and the lady gets very drunk, acts out, makes a scene, and he goes up to her hotel room with his assistant and takes the dress back. All about control. It's crazy because it gets to a point right after that scene, that last scene that we watched, where she's angry, she's frustrated, and so she decides to go get some mushrooms. Not my response in an emotional conflict. "Oh, let me just get mushrooms." But these are poison mushrooms, right? And she literally grinds them up and puts them in his tea and gives him the tea, and then he gets like deathly sick, puking his guts out, and she nurses him back to health. And then their relationship is amazing, and he's like, "Oh, I realized how much I needed you in that moment. Will you marry me?" Now, real quick, if you're in a dating relationship, the best time to propose is not right after your girlfriend poisons you, okay? Just like, piece of advice, throwing that down. Near-death experiences, yes, they're awesome. They're not a great time to propose. So, there's a big power shift there. And what you see is actually that the poison becomes the hero of the movie. And in talking about this, as we unpack this movie, I'm going to show another clip in a little bit that's going to make you go, "What?" And some of you might audibly say that. But before we do that, our dialogue today is actually going to be about power in relationships. And if you've got a Bible, we're going to be in Colossians chapter 3. We're going to start in verse 12 eventually. But first we're going to be in verse 18 and 19. And before we put this on the screen, I know for a fact that some of you in here will not like this verse. So let's do it. We're going to enjoy this together. Colossians 3, 18 and 19 says this: "Wives, submit to your husbands." Nat, you hear that? Yeah. "As is fitting for those who belong to the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and never treat them harshly." It's a power struggle. Relationships are a power struggle. It's funny. This was written about 2,000 years ago, and a few more thousand years before that, the first relationship was strained at best. And when Adam and Eve, they rebelled against God, he put a curse. And this is Genesis chapter 3. He's cursing them, and he says, "Hey, woman, guess what? Forever your eye is going to be for control." He says, "For your husband, for his position." And and you're never going to have it, but you're going to try and usurp it, and he's going to rule it over you. And now here we are, thousands of years later, and Paul is writing to the church in Colossae, and he's saying, hey, wives, submit to your husbands, and husbands, love your wives. And we're sitting here 2,000 years not understanding the true context of that and what those words truly mean. And so we hear that word submit, and we all like to freak out a little bit. Like, what, women can't play a crucial role in the relationship and in marriage, and it's just men who step up and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get behind me. In India, when we were there for a few weeks in high school, my wife and I, we knew each other in high school. I know, I look like I'm still in high school, I'm not. But we noticed that the men would walk about 10 feet in front of their wives. That's not the kind of submission Paul was talking about. That's not what submit means in the Greek. In fact, if you look it up, which I challenge you to do, I took a class of Greek, and I was not great at it because it's all Greek to me. And that was funny. It was funny. It's okay to laugh. That word submit it's not one of an inferior position. Right? There's words that are submit because like a general is telling you, a private, to do something. Yeah, you gotta submit to that, you have no choice. But this submit, this word, here in Colossians chapter 3, verse 18, the word submit is an active giving up the driver's seat as an equal. Right? So it's like when I was working in landscaping, I started fences and decks and hardscapes. That was my job. And so me and another guy worked hand in hand, not literally, but we worked together on these projects. And one day, our boss, one of my best friends, comes to me and is like, hey, one of you has to start taking the lead because two heads aren't working on this crew. Now, our pay was exact same. We got paid the exact same amount, and I was like, hey, Dave, why don't you do it? And he's like, hey, Josiah, I don't want to. I was like, okay, cool. That is what we're talking about. It's an active saying, I will give you this. It's not someone taking it from you. Women, hear me well when I say this. If someone is trying to take it from you, that's not submission in the biblical form. Alright, now, on the other hand, husbands, love your wives and do not treat them harshly. This is a big deal because I feel like as husbands we do a really bad job at this. As a husband, I do a really bad job at this. Because I like to love my wife the way that I like to be loved. The way that I think that would be best. But that's not me loving her well. Me loving her well means I study her. I know her. I know what speaks to her soul. I know what encourages her and allows her to thrive and flourish. Last week we talked about in 1 John that love is this, that someone laid down their life for their friend. That Jesus laid down his life for us. Paul says the same thing to husbands. Husband, love your wife. And it needs both. The relationship needs both. The wife saying, I trust you. I'm giving this to you as an equal, as a partner. Actually, interesting thing, I did a word study this week because I had so much time on my hands. I don't know what I was doing. I spent a lot of time in my concordance. And I found out that in Genesis chapter 2, when God created woman, he said, it's not good that man's alone, so I need to do something. I got to create a helper for him. Now, helper, that word is very interesting because the only other time that form of the word is used in Hebrew throughout the whole Old Testament is in reference to one person, and that's God. Everywhere else in the Bible, it's talking, that word, helper, is talking about God. But in Genesis chapter 2, man's alone, and he needs a helper. He uses the same word. The only time in the Bible that it's used in reference to someone other than God is when it's referencing woman. That's a big deal to me. Because here's the deal. I am helpless without my bride. Any husbands in here, amen to that? No? Alright, that's cool. I'm helpless without my wife. All right, so we know how this passage is going to end, and we're going to get there, but we're going to back it up just a little bit. Let's talk about family thread again. So, I said she poisoned him, nursed him back to health. Their relationship was never better. He was loving. He was, I know, the poisons they hear in this movie, you're going to see it in a second. He was loving. He was, this word that she used over and over again, open. He was open. And then this. This is after she poisoned the tea. One of the last scenes in the movie. She poisoned him again. Sorry. Can't help myself. It's a poison omelet, in case you haven't caught on to it.
Painfully, gently back. Heaviness, pain, open, throw you into her. And then I want you strong again. You're not going to die. You might wish you're going to die, but you're not going to. You need to settle down again. Kiss me, my girl, before I'm sick.
He knew the whole time! He knew the whole time that that was a poison omelet. This movie's all about the balance of power. I can't even. See what I mean? The poison's the hero of the movie. Their relationship is so messed up, but this is so cool because at the end of it, he's like, I'm giving up the power. Because the relationship is worth it. Alright, let's get into it. I know, that's like Colossians 3. Let's do it. Verse 12 says this: since God chose you to be the people He loves, you must clothe yourselves with tender-hearted mercy. It is tiny on the screen. Tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Relationships are about a different kind of phantom thread. They require something different from us. See, if we're going to make relationships work, I think all the time, without even realizing it, we're in the back of our mind thinking about power. We are. And maybe that's not the word we want to use. Maybe control is a better one. Maybe we want to control what the other person thinks about us, feels about us. Maybe we're trying to present ourselves in a certain light. Right? But relationships always have this undertone of something else going on. And Jesus says, hey, listen, if you want relationships that are successful, that are healthy, they need a different underlying phantom thread, something else that is controlling them, something else that is the symbol. And he says, tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience. Apply those to any situation. Apply that to their relationship in this movie, as messed up as it was, and I guarantee you things would look very different. Think about the relationships in your life. When someone wrongs you, tender-hearted mercy. Hey, it's okay. It's not a big deal. I love you. Forgive you. Kindness. Kindness is a weird thing that we don't often practice very well. We're cordial. How often are we really, truly kind? I worked at Starbucks for a while, and I had my barista voice, because every barista has a barista voice, like, hey, welcome to Starbucks, what can I get going for you? Totally not my voice, but it's the cordial, like, oh, they're warm and friendly by the tone of their voice. Oh, I'll give you tips, is the thought, right? But I found that when I lost that and truly connected with someone and showed them kindness, and Matt can testify, that's when my tips were double. Right? Like, people are taken back by kindness because we don't often find true kindness. Humility. Dude Bro was not humble in this movie. I think that sometimes we're humble on the outside, but really we're after something more, patience. What if these were the things that were underlying in our relationships? Verse 13 says this, make allowance for each other's faults. Forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. Relationships have phantom faults. Alright, so some of you who have been married for a long time, anyone over 20 years up in this place? Yeah? A handful. I love it. How well do you know your spouse's faults? Pretty well? Fairly well? Do they have faults? Tell me how that happens. Alright, what about your own faults? How aware are you of your own faults? Equally aware. Alright, some of you single people in here, how many of you guys are painfully aware of your own faults? Not so much, huh? It's maybe. I think so. It's funny, when you're in a relationship, your faults come out pretty strong, right? And before I got married, I thought I knew my weaknesses. I thought I had it pegged, and then within the first 2 years, I was like, I'm not the worst person ever. I don't get this. How am I so awful? And then we had kids, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not even trying anymore. That wasn't true. That was an exaggeration. Here's the deal. I know I'm painfully aware of my own faults. I'm too laid back. Right? There's laid back in a good way, and then there's way too laid back. I'm way too laid back. I go with the flow a little bit too much. I don't plan well. Drives my wife crazy. I don't plan well, and I'm not an organized person. I'm not. I know that. I try very hard, but I'm bad at it. I also know my wife's faults. She doesn't have any. Do you guys know your faults? That was a joke, by the way. She does, in case you're wondering. Do you know your own faults? Better question for you is, are you quick to forgive others' faults? And when they forgive you of yours, are you quick to let them? Jesus forgave us of a lot. In fact, I would go so far as to say that to the measure Jesus forgave you, you should forgive others. And let that sink in for a little bit. Because forgiveness is what we need, and at the same time, what we don't want to give. Verse 14. Check this out. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony. Verse 15. And let the peace that comes from Christ rule in your hearts. For as members of one body, you are called to live in peace and always be thankful. Relationships demand love and thankfulness. Now, I'm not just talking about romantic love. And I don't think Paul is just talking about romantic love. In fact, right now, he's specifically talking to the church at large in how we relate with each other. Relationships, not just romantic ones, require love, demand love. And when we're not truly getting it, and we're not truly giving it, there's no peace. Harmony does not happen. Harmony does not happen in the absence of love. He said, and always be thankful. Always be thankful. I found myself this last week. It's been a rough couple weeks for my family. Some of you guys know we've traveled a really tough road, and I was irritable this week. Maybe externally, maybe not, but definitely internally, I was irritable. Maybe externally, maybe not, but definitely internally, I was irritable. And I got to a point as I'm preparing this sermon when a quote by Harry Ironside popped into my mind. I know that seems so weird. Content and dissatisfaction. You're frustrated, annoyed. You're angry, discontent, and dissatisfaction. You're frustrated, annoyed. You're angry, be clothed in love, and always be thankful. Because if you're taking a posture of thankfulness, if you're taking a posture of saying, look at what is, I am so thankful and blessed by this, and by this, and by this, then all of a sudden it's kind of hard to be dissatisfied and discontent when you're truly being thankful for what. It's hard to be angry at someone when you're so thankful for everything else in the relationship and everything else that has happened. All of a sudden, the way they phrase that sentence doesn't seem like such a big deal. Love brings unity. Unity brings peace through Jesus Christ, and peace brings thankfulness. Verse 16. Let the message about Christ in all its richness fill your lives. Teach and counsel each other with all the wisdom He gives. Sing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs to God with thankful hearts. Verse 17, and whatever you do or say, do it as a representative of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks through Him to God the Father. How does this happen? How do we mend all of these relationships? How do we get to a place where our phantom threads are not about control and power, but about love and joy and hope and encouragement and mercy and grace and thanksgiving? How do we get to that point? How do we get to that point where our faults aren't a big deal, others' faults aren't a big deal? It's remembering what Jesus has done. It's remembering who He is. It's remembering that He came to love. He came to pursue us. He came to overlook our faults by His blood. See, this movie finds its hope, finds its hero in a poisonous mushroom. We find our hope, our hero, in a compassionate Savior. This movie gets better when He gets worse. We're already worse, and Jesus is way better. There's so much hope, there's so much joy, there's so much encouragement, and it all comes from Christ. If you have a broken relationship, put Jesus in the middle. If your marriage is in trouble, put Jesus in the middle as the focus. Stop looking at each other's faults. You're not doing this. You're not living up to this expectation. You said you would do this. Well, guess what? People are going to let you down. Relationships are going to let you down. And if your hope is in a relationship, is in another person, is in anything but Jesus, you're going to be let down. This movie, Phantom Threads, it's all about control. But it's funny, because throughout the whole movie what you see is that control is an illusion. How do we get to this place of hope and joy? It's through Jesus. So this morning what we're going to do, how we're going to respond, is we are going to remember Jesus as a family, as a community, in the relationships that you have. And so today, if you're married, we're going to take communion together. You're going to come up with your significant other. The communion's going to be here on the table. You're going to take it together. Go back to your seat. You're going to pray over each other, and then you're going to take it. If you're here and you're not in a relationship, do it with those around you in your community. Because this isn't a movie just about romance. This isn't a passage just about romance. This is community living. And as a church, we want to be a community known for tender-hearted mercy, for kindness, for patience. We want to be a community known for love. So it's time we clothe ourselves with that. So in a second, we're going to stand, we're going to sing. Communion's going to be up here. Come take it in your community, in your family. Put Jesus in the middle where he belongs. Let's pray. Jesus, I am so thankful, Lord, for your grace, for your mercy, for the compassion you had on us that moved you from your seat on high to come into this earth, to be God incarnate, God in flesh, here with us. I'm thankful, Lord, that in the depth of my sin and despair, you pursued me, you knew me, you grabbed me, you called me your son. Lord God, I know that there are broken relationships here today. Relationships that need the metaphorical poison mushroom to come in and make things better. And Lord, we know that that is you. That clothing ourselves in love only happens when we are truly aware of what love is, and that is you, Jesus. You pursued us, you know us. As we take communion together, remembering your sacrifice, your blood shed, your body broken, pray that we would be a people unified under your banner of your grace, under the message of your love, under the hope of your good news. Jesus, we love you. And it's in your good name we pray this morning. Stand and worship with us.
next verse for us. Many great hymns have this kind of, many times maybe a third or final verse. And the writers always had this sense of, our time here will pass. And good Lord, would you embrace me with your kindness when the veil of earth lifts? When we pass this life into the next, would it be your kindness that draws us into your presence? And when before the throne I stand and Jesus died our soul to save. Our lips shall sing. Jesus paid all to this song came from one of our worship leaders who's been going through this cancer journey that's just, we've been sharing with her in her struggles and her battles and her journey. And she said, I need to sing this chorus that would take courage, my heart, stay steadfast, my soul. He's in the waiting. So whether it's your move to open hands and hearts and into kindness, if it's a move into just courage to wait for the sunrise to get over your soul, let's sing this together. May we always linger, may we always linger in your presence, my Lord. Come on, linger and love and go in His kindness. Push forward, let the love of Jesus resurrect.